an official good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Liza De Beer, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Healthbridge and your host for this evening. I'm excited to be joining you this evening for our new myMPS with Clinical Notes webinar. Why am I excited? Well, if any of you know anything about Healthbridge, you will know that myMPS is our well-known cloud-based software that takes care of the admin side of your business. However, what I am really excited about is our new clinical notes component that not only enables us to now offer an all-in-one solution that includes patient scheduling, clinical notes, medical billing, and telehealth, but it has been co-designed with a group of allies, ensuring we deliver to you your specific needs, rather than the vast general needs of all medical professionals. Plus, the most popular piece of feedback we got from allies is that they wanted clinical notes that were not complex. So yes, I can assure you that we have made sure our clinical notes are super simple and easy to use. Now, before I get too carried away, let me just take you through some general house rules. Firstly, if you have a question, please feel free to send it using the Q&A feature, which you should find probably at the bottom of your screen or sometimes at the top right-hand corner. Secondly, if after the webinar you would like someone to call you back, please email webinar@healthbridge.coza. Simply include your name and preferred contact number in the email, and if you have a specific question, you can include that too. Either way, we will call you back. And lastly, there will be a lot of new information which may seem overwhelming. That is why we'll be emailing you a recording of this webinar with some additional supporting information for your reference. So please look out for it in the days to follow. Now that the admin is out the way, I would like to introduce you to our presenter for this evening, Quellen Govender. Quellen is our head of myMPS products and will be taking you through best practices for running a digitized allied healthcare practice. Over to you, Quellen. And I see he's left us. I know he's having internet problems. So it looks like his problems are a little bit more than we anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I can actually just start with his presentation. And hopefully he'll come back in time for the demo because that's really his expertise. But also for those of you, I don't want to waste everybody's time. We will be doing a formal recording and I will be sending it out to everyone. But yes, let me get started on his presentation. I do apologize. It is his presentation, but let's see how it goes. Let me just share. Great. So first of all, I want to start by taking you through the 3 T's. So the first one is key trends impacting allied health professionals given the COVID pandemic, useful tips in rebuilding your practice, your patient volumes and profitability in the new norm, and then finally the demo, which hopefully Quellen will join us for. So claim trends impacting allied healthcare professionals. So if we look here, what you can see is this was the start of lockdown. So we took just like the week before, and we said the number of claims sent that, we let it equal 100%. And as you can see, as we went through the various lockdown stages, we still weren't quite up, we still didn't quite make it up back to normal claim volume percentages. And it took some while to even start recovering. I mean, 10 weeks ago, we still hadn't even hit 100%. We're still at 95. I did look at a bit of a projection for the last week, and we're still not at 100%. It does vary. It goes back down to 70% to 80% around there. So some of the reasons why we think it took so long to recover was first, when some medical practices remained open during lockdown, but patients didn't know how to have these virtual consults because practices weren't set up for them. And so it did take some time for some practices to learn, how to use telehealth and how to create consults online. Another point was when practices did open up a little bit more, it was sometimes hard to get hold of the practices. The reason for this is some of the admin ladies hadn't quite come back to work yet, so phones were largely left unanswered when medical professionals were in consult. So I mean, having something like Recomed, which is an online booking platform, would have actually helped solve these issues during lockdown. Another one was often patients didn't quite know where they sat with practices. So for example, I know I had a friend who had a dental appointment, which she booked a couple of months in advance. And it came up and she's like, I'm not too sure if I'm supposed to be going or not. And so she decided not to go. A couple of weeks later, she called the dentist and apparently he was opened. So unfortunately for the dentist, that would have been seen as a no-show and that would have been quite costly for the practice. All he really needed to do was send an SMS or update his social media profile or update Google My Business. And we'll talk through these various platforms that you can use just now. And then, of course, one of probably the most important points is even for those medical professionals who were prepared to treat patients, sometimes they would do it from their homes and they wouldn't really have access to the patient's medical records. And the reason for this is obviously they're using paper patient files. And if they had had clinical notes, this would have been easy as you would have been able to access them from anywhere and anytime. Then if we look at one of the other claim trends. So what you'll see here is telehealth claim trends increased quite nicely over the lockdown period. But they're still quite low. And you can see here in August, it dropped back down. So what we're seeing is, yes, people realized there was a need for telehealth during the lockdown. Although people are using it a little bit less during August, I don't think telehealth is going anywhere. Number one, I actually know of this one GP. She said now she works half day and she uses telehealth to help her with that. So she does a lot of her consults from home, so she can spend more time with her family. So I think more people are finding different uses for telehealth to make treatment a lot more easier and a lot more flexible on time. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through 4 tips on how you can rebuild your patient volumes during and after COVID-19. So the first one, which I kind of alluded to in the trends, is you need to proactively reach out to patients. So patients need to know, first of all, that you're open and if your operating hours have changed. And they also need to know, are you now offering telehealth consults? Now, this can be done a few ways. You can either send it through email, or you can send it through bulk SMSs to your database, or you can just update your online profiles. And I think also now, consumers have been really scared to go to practices. So I think, enabling automated SMS for your chronic patients to encourage them to come back, or for follow-up appointments, this would really help just recreate the behavior with patients. Tip 2, get your practice online. So I think what we've seen is, never mind just patients, consumers in general are going online more and more. They're going online to find out what people think of certain medical professionals, where they can find them, what kind of services they offer. So here are some good platforms that you guys can use. So MedPages. MedPages has quite a good search ranking. So, and as far as I'm concerned, I think it's free. You can upload your information up there so patients can find you. Google My Business, like I love Google My Business. So obviously I do the marketing for Healthbridge. And I mean, Google My Business is really great just to promote your company. It shows up in your search results as soon as somebody searches your name. And it's a nice little thing where you can stick up notifications and that sort of thing. I see I have a question. Oh, Quellen's back. Great. So I'm just going to continue until he kind of pops on as panelist. And then social media again, unless you're paying for paid ads, it's free. So I mean, get a Facebook going, get an Instagram going. Again, it shows up in search. So it really helps when people use that Google. And the last one is Recomed. So if you are aware of Recomed, you probably know it as an online booking platform. But I think what you don't know is it has a really good search engine ranking as well. So if somebody were to search for your name, or for example, for a physio, the likelihood of you showing up in the ranks is also increased. Then tip number 3 is embrace telehealth. First of all, it opens up your practice to a whole new market of patients. So for example, I know there's one doctor who's using it, and look, there's probably a lot of legal implications, but she's just giving free advice to different countries, especially during lockdown. So just think of it, if you're in Johannesburg, you could be giving advice to somebody in Cape Town, and it doesn't really upset your workflow at all. It also reduces no-shows. So I know, for example, Joburg traffic is crazy, and sometimes it's really hard to make that appointment that you want. But if you could do it from the comfort of your home, or you could go book a meeting room in the office, sometimes that would be easier, and it would be less likely impacting the patient from showing up at your practice. And then also it helps retain current patients, because it just gives them another option to consult with you. And as well, some patients might start preferring telehealth, especially considering how many people are moving into the digital arena. And then last one is, you guys need to optimize your cloud-based software. So I think if we've learned anything from COVID-19, it's that you need anytime, anywhere access to your practice. This enables you, for example, say your admin lady becomes sick, at least you've got full access to your practice. You can send the claims, and you don't need to have a delay in getting in your revenue. It also gives you access to your patient notes. So if somebody has an emergency, you don't have to tell them to wait till the next day when you get back to the office to let them know, because nobody can expect you to remember every single patient you have. So this is just a nice convenient. It also allows you to do your telehealth consults from home or from whichever location is convenient for you. And lastly, improve security with automated updates. So I know when you've got a desktop application, you guys need to be quite responsible for doing your own updates. And sometimes they can take a long time, and you'll need to do them when you're in the office because you'll need to set them off. But I mean, with cloud-based software, we do our updates in the evening or at the lowest impact times, and you don't need to worry about it. And basically, cloud-based software equals better patient care. Great. Now I'm going to hand over to Quellen. Quellen, are you with us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Awesome. Nice to have you back with us. We're very excited to see the demo.
Yes. Got my camera on. Apologies. I had a bit of a malfunction, blue screen, usual Thursday. So I'm happy to be back.
As long as you can do the important bit.
Yes. So let me just share my screen here, right? Good evening, everybody. Thank you for making the time. Just let me know when you can see my screen. Nice.
Yep, all good.
Okay, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, perfect.
Right. Okay, so just recapping in terms of what Liza was taking you guys through this evening, the trends of COVID, basically how COVID has impacted those practices or practices on our platform, the patient volumes, the telehealth, the tips, hopefully through this demo in terms of how practices have engaged using some of these tools on our system, really has engaged them through this period and hopefully beyond. So what I'd like to show you today is, hopefully I can cover some of this, and this is what we're going to take you through in terms of the demo. Picture yourself seeing a patient in a practice, walking through the flow from start to finish, from scheduling an appointment to checking, making sure that they have benefit checks. If they're a new patient, ensuring that you create that account, checking in the patient, viewing their clinical file, capturing the right consultation codes and the right billing instructions for that seamlessly, either through some of your favorites that we've created or for the codes that you know, and ultimately collect and remind your patients to pay. So moving to the demo, just going to log in. Okay, so in the demo, just to navigate and orientate for our listeners, whether we have existing clients and new clients on, we have four fundamental functions on MPS. As you can see, we've got the calendar that really drives most of the patient bookings. It's really the heart of the practice. We have the inbox that really drives your day-to-day, whether you have a practice manager or a receptionist, or you're physically doing both admin and clinical. There's a daily to-do list in an inbox. You have the accounts where you create new patients and manage your existing book. The admin setting is around user security and user profiles and roles. The reports is ultimately reporting in terms of what your practice does, both from an operational, clinical, and financial aspect. Okay, so walking through this scenario, we're going to book a patient in. For purposes of this demo, I'll book an existing patient, Mr. Healthbridge demo. This is the appointment. It's not at 3 p.m. It is at 7:25. We're gonna make sure that we're booking in a telehealth consult. So here's a visit type that's called video. The reason for this patient is actually wanting to do a follow-up with the physiotherapist at this practice. So we're going to make a video consult for this patient. It's coming in to do other follow-up surgery check-in and do it like that. And I'm going to save this patient into the diary. So this is an existing patient. It is at 7:20. Actually, enable Mr. Physio here. And here's the Mr. Patient Healthbridge demo. He's here to see the physio. Normally what happens here is either the receptionist or practice manager, or if you're doing both the clinical and billing, you will be able to check in your patient as they arrive. What's key on this online calendar is you have two fundamental aspects. One is the benefit check, understanding what basically this consult will cost, and if your client has benefits with their schemes. Also, on the side of the waiting room, really managing your patient flow. And basically, it tells me this appointment is coming up in 3 minutes, which is good, so I can manage my time with my current patient. I'm going to do another booking, but I'm going to do one that is a brand new patient. So a little feature that we've got to add an account. I'm going to search for a patient here that is on Discovery, put in the patient's membership number, and this is where we'll be able to check with Discovery based on that membership number, the family members linked to this main account, and we can create an account on that system, generate an account number, save. Sorry, I forgot to put the screen at an option here. This client is a saver, classic. Cell phone number, email address, which is key as part of the appointment reminders, as well as your billing instructions for collections. I'm just going to make this a Gmail. No. So I've created a new account. So let's book Mr. Govender in. Here he is. He's here to see, for example, the psychologist. This is a multidisciplinary practice, so there's a lot more disciplines in this. He also wants to see a video consult, and he's having stress related to COVID. So I'm just going to check him in here. So there you have creating two different types, one for an existing client and one for a new. Another sneaky trick that we also have in the system, if we have an emergencies where we've seen practices that are really busy, you can add them immediately into the waiting room. Example, this would be for Robert. He's also here to see a psychologist, and he needs some family therapy. So this is another way that you can use the waiting room really to manage your traffic. So I'll show you 3 different ways. 1, to create a new account. 2, to see an existing account. And 3, to really use your waiting room for emergencies. Okay. So moving into the second part of actually seeing and physically seeing this patient. As you can see in the top left, we have this little play button. This is the video link to a telehealth consult. It's already enabled. This Healthbridge demo customer would have received an SMS and email reminding them about the appointment. They do not have to download anything. They just have to click on the link that was sent both by the system that generates this link, and you can have the telehealth consult. So I'm just going to click on it, really show you this. Apologies, I've got the little one. Okay, just going to turn my camera off on Zoom. And just join this consult. Okay, so tell me if you received the link.
Which platform did you send it through?
It should have come through to you on your Hangouts.
Sorry, I don't have my Hangouts open.
Problem? What's nice about the telehealth functionality while I'm waiting for Liza, the actual patient, to join, you can leave a message to say, hi Liza, waiting to see you, or I can say running a little late. There's various other functionalities that we have on the telehealth platform in terms of sharing screen. I can share my screen, and basically we've seen practices use this to really do follow-ups on some of the assessments, some of the body charts, some of the x-rays, really engaging with their patients, making it as if they're sitting here during COVID. So
I've joined. It just won't let me turn on my video because I'm on Zoom as well. It doesn't like the recording aspect.
that's fine.
But
You need to turn.
see, there I am.
Okay, I can see you on here, but you don't want to see your video. Great. So this is the telehealth function. As I mentioned, it's pretty seamless, straight from your diary. The client clicks on the link. You click on the link in your calendar, and you'll be able to join that appointment. Okay. Let's move on to Robert. So I've checked in Robert. He wants to see the psychologist. I can have a look at his file. Or if I haven't finished with the previous consult with Liza, I have a look at her file. I want to make some notes on that telehealth consult that we had. And here you can see a full history of Liza, or AKA Healthbridge demo, the patient. Here's a quick general medical history on Liza, when last this file was updated and by who. Quick little notes about Liza. Doesn't like telehealth video. For example, it's just a way of capturing quick medical histories. What's nice about this clinical layout is we've designed it with some of the allies in mind to really keep it simple, keep it effective. Key things that they need in terms of medical history, a little bit of lifestyle, which we have hobbies and an occupation. And we have the general progress note, which is the lifelong history of this client. So as this client comes to you on a regular basis, especially in the allies for follow-ups, this is a running history of the patient and the multiple assessments that you have done with them over the course of this period. Should the client request, any of these notes, you have two options. You can email or print. So in the cases that you print and they're at the front desk, you can print, and this is basically the history, clinical notes that you've made or general progress note for the specific client. You also have the function called email. Here it's automatically linked to your general progress notes. It's attached. You can send this to the patient, which is automatically populated in the email address. And you can also add in a referral if you are wanting to send it to another referring specialist. You can add another email address here. And basically, you can send that clinical note to that provider and patient. Okay, so this is the general progress note for this consult. I've seen Liza on the 8th of September for a hand evaluation. This is the encounter that I had with Liza. What's nice about this clinical note is that once I've done it, there is a little feature that we've seen practices in the allied space really use called copy and create. So I've made this extensive note. Today is the 1st of October. I will create the exact previous note that I made. I do not have to retype it. All the previous encounters a year, and I just make a change here to say up on hand Homer, and this is the new note for the 1st. We've built this specifically for general purposes, so for the likes of our physios, chiros, and bios, they seem to be using the body chart as the client comes. So type here, rotator cuff, and you can play around in terms of what you want on that body chart. For our psychology, dietitians, and nurses, what we've seen is the quick form notes like this that has been created. They like to use this and copy and create. We have 2 fundamental functions. If you're really busy and you're really running behind on your schedule here on the right, you can save this note as a draft. It doesn't go anywhere. It says it was last edited by Mr. Allied Admin, which is myself, at 7:30, and I can come back to this note, and it is in a draft status. For complete notes, as I said, you can print or email. Printing the old note, should a client come back on that specific encounter, you can look at the general progress note plus the specific visit that we did on the 8th and what was covered, physical examination, the plan. This clinical template is based on the SOAP methodology. We do have plans of building and allowing allies to create their own templates, their own notes on the system, how they want it instead of the SOAP. So instead of having subjective, objective assessment and plan, looking at your different types of categories and how you want to lay out your specific template with your own image related to that template. And that will be stored under this global template database, and that'll be specific to your practice. So that is the clinical note. I've saved one in the draft. I'm happy. I'm going to say happy with this note. I'll save and lock this. Now we move on to the billing screen. I'm happy with this note. I'd like to capture the invoice. And here we move into the billing section of that encounter. So really quick notes. If you're doing a follow-ups, we've seen a lot of our allies using this function, copy and create, looking at the old notes and just adding to the plan section of the SOAP encounter, really moving to the billing space. I've created templates on here, so these are favorites for my specific practice and what I like to do. I don't have one for the hand, but let's just do a follow-up on this one, which has all my key procedure codes, my tariff codes, description, the diagnosis linked to it, and the prices fundamentally linked to the Discovery Classic Saver. That's ready for me to go. I don't have to do anything. Now, depending if you're the billing doctor or the billing provider, you can submit directly, or again, we've seen how allies have pushed this either to their practice manager or receptionist or billing manager to really come back later. So we have the Save for Later button that will go into the inbox for you to go and make sure that you go through. So before I leave the screen, I really want to cover creating a template, so how easy it is to create your own little favorite. Because I had this favorite saved as skeletal follow-up for Discovery, I can change this to follow-up med scheme. For example, these are my favorite codes, diagnoses. I want to add in 72.1, for example. Can, and that favorite is saved, and it's in your just follow-up for med scheme. Sorry, my system, this is our demo system. Follow-up for med scheme is here. So if I had to go and clear, reset this, I will click on follow-up to med scheme, and here are all the codes that I just saved for that encounter. So pretty easy. While you're capturing, save your templates, come back to it, build a nice portfolio of what's easy for you. We have the diagnoses where you can save your favorite diagnoses, chest pains, pain in joint hand, for example, your favorite procedures, your favorite medicines, consumables. So depending on how much time and effort and how busy the practice is, I highly recommend doing it while you're billing and creating the template, or doing it on a weekend, and once they're there, you can always use them. Okay, so I'm going to save this one for later. Invoice has been saved. And to check out, the system reminds me that I haven't invoiced, although I have saved something for later. I don't want to do it now. It also reminds me that there's an outstanding balance for this patient. And I do not want to collect. Then I see the next patient. So where did that invoice go? It went here on the 1st of the 10th. This is my to-do list. This tells me I have 26 invoices that needed to be complete. And this is basically me double checking that all the codes are correct. If I need to add any specific modifiers, I need to change the diagnoses. If the patient's name is incorrect, this allows me to go and double check that. And ultimately, I'm happy with this. The claim gets submitted, and so you clean out your to-do list. This is reduced down to 25. So fundamentally, from start to finish, we have booked in a patient, we have checked that patient in, we have viewed their clinical file. This is a new patient. I added into the walk-in room. I'd like to create a brand new note. He's come in for a leg sprain, and so you keep typing your shorthand notes and save this as a draft, and you can quickly go and capture an invoice, select the physio, select your follow-up for med scheme, and so that process continues. And this is what we've seen allies in that space really busy, enjoy this type of 5-minute encounter, reducing the admin side of billing as well as clinical notes, all in the system. Okay, so
I have some questions before you go on.
Yeah.
Can you dictate clinical notes?
Dictate?
So can you speak and have clinical notes written up?
Yes, so I mentioned about customizing your own clinical note on here. What we have planned in the roadmap is to really allow you to create your own. And secondly, there's another function where you can attach previous files. Let's say you had old pictures. You can also do that. And the third function that we'll be adding to this package of clinical notes is a speech to text, which alludes to me talking, and it'll obviously type in each of the sections as I record. So that is the dictate function. So it is in our roadmap, and we are building on the simplicity, making sure that it's fit for those clients, and yeah, those are the features that are coming up.
Awesome. And then the next question, I'm not 100% sure, but maybe you have more clarity around it. I see these notes done in rooms. How do we make digital notes from hospital patients? I'm not sure if we're talking. Yeah, do you understand it?
I think this is an in-room, so it's a good question. So how we've managed it with a few of the physios that that do a lot of the hospital claims. As there's two ways you could do it. One, that account has never been created on your platform. So I showed you how to create a new account. Once that account is there, you can search for that patient. I'm just going to do an example here. So this is a hospital patient. I'm just going to choose a patient. I'm going to just view this patient's file, clinical note, and you save the notes for the hospital and you can email. So it's fundamentally the same exact process. It's just that you're creating that patient on your system and really then going to the clinical notes or invoicing. You could do both. You can capture an invoice for that new account that you created just for billing purposes, or you can go and follow the clinical notes encounter like we've seen. And how does that work? You either manage your diary through the left-hand side here, which is schedule patient and the visit type. You normally see it as out of room. Let me just choose an example of the physio. Out of room, reason for visit, rehab, and we make a note here about the appointment. This is a hospital visit. Have you chosen a patient? Just choose one here. You can either check them in, or you can literally view their file and capture the invoice and save for later and come back to it, or capture the clinical notes while you see them in hospital. So it fundamentally works similar as an in-room, but you have the out-of-room option of creating those. So hopefully that answered that question.
Awesome. No, that was perfect. Thanks, Quillen.
Any more questions?
No, you can carry on.
Cool. Okay, so finishing that journey, what's key, I think Liza mentioned some of the trends and the tools. You know, how do you communicate with your patients? We have the bulk email, SMS function. Where we've seen this powerfully is one, if your practice is changing, times during COVID or after COVID. If you're introducing telehealth and you want patients to really engage with the new platform, we're launching telehealth at the practice for safety. We'll also be doing in our sprints is allowing you to save this as a template, so you don't have to recreate these. But this is an example. You can attach a file of your little brochure about telehealth, and you can send that off to a different cohort of patients within your practice. Gender, if it's medical aid patients only, if it's just best med, let's just choose a discovery one here, for example. System will tell you the 7 patients that meet that profile. If you're happy with this, you send email and they will be enjoying that message from you. We also have SMSs. It's been used quite a bit during COVID. Really engage with the patients, birthdays, checking in, telehealth. It seems to be the going trend about communicating. And lastly, really around the practice and how do you monitor and be closer to your business in terms of how you're reporting. Got quite a robust set of reports, both from how your day-to-day is going from an appointments perspective, really from a collections, what's outstanding, financially, how you're doing from a claims. And we've also got a quick little summary for those busy providers that are running a business that are in and out, like, somebody mentioned about hospital and rooms. Seems like it's a pretty busy provider. You get a snapshot of my business. How do I see where I need to improve? And what we have is 3 fundamental performance dashboards that really give you a snippet. And should you want the detail, you can then go and look at one of the reports, which I'll show you. So this is a little final snapshot of this practice during this period. The 1st or the 31st by default, the date of services have been selected. Just make it a little bigger for everybody to see. This is giving me a snapshot of how much I invoiced during that period. I can choose different providers within my practice and really monitor how much has each provider really been performing. So this is quite powerful in the hands of practice owners, business managers to really look at what's my medical aid liable amount, what is my patient liable, what are my top schemes that I've invoiced, and what payment types are predominantly in my practice. I've got a 6 months trend view, so how am I performing? So you can see during COVID, before COVID, I was doing great. COVID came and my practice closed, and now I'm slowly opening up, through level 3, level 4, and so forth. And you can see September has been a bit rocky. It's been a bit of a rocky month. So this is the trend view, really monitoring where you've been over the last 6 months and how your schemes have evolved. But other ones in terms of a clinical dashboard, so what are your top procedures? What are your top diagnoses? Are you seeing more acute or chronic? What are your procedures? You can see this practice is using PPE a lot. So this is really just giving you that glimpse month on month. How did I perform in June? How did I perform in July? Or how did I perform across the four months? So yeah, if you want to go into the detail of the reports, you can pull in a daily transaction report or a monthly transaction report to really look at month and month. Am I doing well? Or you can activate these dashboards to really give you a snippet. Yeah, guys, from my side, I think starting from really booking in, using the online calendar. We have integrated with Recommit, really your patients that are using online platforms and the internet can find you. They can book you in. This appointment comes into your diary. You check them in as normal. For emergencies, you can add them to the waiting room. You can view the patient's file. This is a blank file. For example, you can create your templates, invoice, or save for later, and still report and see how your day looked. So yeah, that's it for today, I think.
Awesome. Cool. I'm just popping in, if we have no more questions, I'm just popping in a survey that would be really helpful just to get some of your feedback on what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, or maybe even topics that you want to hear more of in the future. And remember to please keep a lookout for an email that will be coming from webinar@healthbridge.coza. This email will contain your webinar recording and some additional helpful information. If you have any questions, please also feel free to send them to us at webinar@healthbridge.coza. Well, yeah, I hope you guys are just as excited as we are about our all-in-one myMPS with clinical notes solution designed specifically for allied professionals. So from us here at Healthbridge, we wish you a good evening. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Good night.
Cheers.